So, here we are. Andrew Tate, controversial opinionator, professor of quality women's studies, alleged trafficker of people, and all-around dingus. Here, I'm trying to work out who Andrew Tate really is, and why he is. His incoherent philosophy and message, his ... appeal. Fancy it?
Ghetto Prince is my name, making love's how I swing. I'm your pusher.
Andrew Tate was born Emery Andrew Tate III in Washington, D.C. in 1986. His father, Emery Tate Jr., was a US Air Force NCO who later traveled the US playing chess tournaments. His mother, Eileen, worked as a catering assistant. Andrew Tate has a brother, Tristan, and a sister, Janine. They were raised in Goshen, Indiana, and Chicago, Illinois, where a young Andrew Tate learned to play chess and compete in tournaments. In this newspaper article from 1993, Tate's father describes how every kid wants to be like his dad, but that he had recently restricted how much Andrew could spend playing chess because of the intense pressure of the game. He describes an adult tournament where 6-year-old Andrew competed and lost 3 out of 5 games. He got very upset because he thought he was failing, Tate's dad said as he pulled Andrew out of the tournament. I saved him from crying in front of all of those people. Tate has characterized his parents' style of relationship as having an influence on his life. A relationship where his mother was subservient to his father, whom he says had an inclination toward women, booze, and gambling. In interviews, Tate refers to his father as the greatest man who ever lived, but concedes that he was socially strange. His words.
My mother was very much subservient to my father, which was a good thing. They used to have arguments, etc.
When Tate was 11, his parents divorced, and he and his siblings moved with their mother to her birthplace in Luton, England, while his father stayed in America. The Tate brothers have said in interviews that they experienced poverty during this time, and Andrew claimed that moving to England meant he lost his chess coach too, so he decided to turn away from chess and learn kickboxing instead. Around 2005, at the age of 19, Tate began training as a kickboxer. Over the next 9 years, he competed professionally, winning 4 ISKA world titles and gaining a record of 76 wins to 9 losses. However, he remained relatively unknown outside of the world of kickboxing up to this point. In 2010, he went on the only series of a UK TV show called Ultimate Traveller, which seems to have largely been forgotten, although it does offer a glimmer of the Tater inside.
That's what I want to do. I want to win just so I can go home and say, yeah, I won, I manipulated them all.
Then, around 2011, Tate decided to start a webcam company, myfreecams.com, with his brother Tristan, operating out of his apartment in London. In a later podcast interview, Tate explained that he got started because he was running out of money from his kickboxing career and decided that he could make a lot of money from what he called webcam pimping. He said he had 5 different girlfriends at the time who didn't know about each other, and he texted all of them and said, "You're all coming to live with me and work with me." He flew the women to London and told them that they were all going to live with him and start a webcam business so they could all get rich. Tate said that 3 of the women said no, but 2 said yes, because they loved him. And so they became his first girls.
And it just grew and grew and grew, and it got to the point where at one point I had 75 women working for me in 4 locations.
Damn.
And I was doing $600,000 a month.
Later, in 2022, Tristan Tate told the Sunday Mirror in the UK that the webcam operation was all a big scam, and that he didn't feel any guilt because no one cares. It's their problem, not mine. He went on to explain that the webcam models were actually used to con men out of money by presenting sob stories to the men watching the cams, who would then tip the model to help her with fake financial problems like student loans or hospital bills. He asserted that the business was legal because the terms and conditions of the site declare it for entertainment purposes only. Oh dear. In the same article, Andrew Tate expanded further. It's a total scam. The model just has their hands on a keyboard that isn't even plugged in. I have real professionals who are fluent in English behind the scenes getting men hooked, finding out their interests, the name of their dog. A guy will come online, they'll say, "How's Sparky?" It's an operation of professionals who lure these men in. Another Andrew Tate quote from the article: "The addiction in terms of a beautiful woman you think might be in love with you, the addiction is very real. I've seen it crush them. They've turned violent and angry when they run out of money and realize models aren't going to move to Utah to be with them in their trailer." But up to this point, despite his best efforts to get on TV, Tate was still relatively unknown outside of the world of kickboxing. Until, in 2016, Tate appeared as a contestant on the UK version of Big Brother, where he seemed to annoy every person he came in contact with.
From what I've seen, 8 of you, snakes, snakes. Saying to someone that you're upset they're evicted after voting for them, not arguing with someone to their face and slacking them off to the diary room. These are things that I've been shown.
After only 4 days of filming, Tate was removed from the show. The producers at the time explained this removal to the press as being due to information which came to light. Afterwards, it came out that Tate had made some racist, homophobic and sexist tweets in the past. In addition, a video emerged which appeared to show Tate hitting his ex-girlfriend with a belt. Later, his ex-girlfriend came out and said this was consensual. At the time, this was widely assumed to be the reason for his removal from the show. However, it was recently reported that the production company and broadcaster had, at the time, discovered that Tate was under criminal investigation by the Hertfordshire police on accusations of physical and sexual assault. And this was the reason for his removal from the show, because he failed to disclose this information during the casting process. A background check was performed before he went on the show, but because he hadn't been charged yet, nothing came up. Shortly after, in 2017, Tate decided to move to Romania. In interviews, he's explained that he moved to Romania because it's a place where corruption is accessible to everybody. Going on to say,
I find it offensive that a police officer in England will stop me for speeding and then refuse to take a bribe and pretend that... No, but I'll tell you why.
This incredible notion is something he has repeated in other videos. The idea that the entire world is corrupt in favor of the wealthy and that he desires to take advantage of that. What a guy. Later, in a separate video, Tate explains that about 40% of the reason he moved to Romania is because police take sexual assault allegations less seriously there, saying, "No, I'm not a fucking rapist, but I like the idea of just being able to do what I want." This is a recurring theme in his talks and interviews, a fixation on being targeted by the police, rightly.
Any fucking bitch who works at Greg's who you bought a pasty from, at some point in the future can destroy your life.
Anyway, after his exit from Big Brother, Tate decided to reinvent himself as a sort of guru of masculinity. He decided to become an influencer, calling himself Cobra Tate. Jesus. He started a YouTube channel called Tate Speech, an Instagram, a TikTok account, his own website, and so on. Like many social media influencers, he created a brand for himself that, at first glance, revolved around a seemingly extravagant and tacky lifestyle. Expensive cars with poor height clearance, hotels, yachts, private jets, all of the necessary laws. At the same time, he coupled this with explaining his personal philosophy in videos aimed at young men and boys, and his explanation of his philosophy kind of depends on who he's talking to and how perceptive the questions are. On one end of the spectrum, say talking to Piers Morgan, Tate presents himself as offering self-help for young men who don't have a good role model in the world today. He is teaching boys how to be men. They should be physically strong, traditionally masculine, and work to protect women. He can say things that almost anyone would agree with. Men should protect women.
We can sit here and pretend that in the world we live in, if me and my wife were walking down the street and men were to come up and try and attack us, I wouldn't be the one fighting. But we both know in reality I would.
But in other settings, where he clearly feels less likely to get pushback, it becomes clear that his idea about how to be a man is really focused on three areas: getting rich, glorifying violence, and subjugating women.
I perfected this in pimp school. When I got my PhD, we had to practice if a girl comes at you, you cheater, you're cheating. It's bang out the machete, boom in her face, and then grip her up by the neck. That's how it goes. Slap, slap, grab, choke, shut up, bitch, sex.
As he gained more followers and viewers, he would say more extreme things. That women shouldn't be able to drive. That women are owned by their husbands and should obey men. That women have lower IQs than men. That he wouldn't want a female pilot on a plane because men are more in control of their emotions, which he said screaming at people.
Well, it's been proven that the smartest people in the world are men.
See, that's
But
I think where
that's been proven.
Marilyn von Savant has one of the world's highest IQs. She is known as the smartest person in the world.
Cool. Then all right, cool. Then I'm totally wrong. I never even said. All I told you is that the most stupid people in the world were men and the most intelligent people in the world were men.
He suggested that people on the left should go to Saudi Arabia and be killed. He insisted that depression isn't real, even claiming that he has cured depression and prevented suicides in his followers. He said that if every man in every household carried a sword, his wife wouldn't talk back to him. That COVID is a hoax to convince people to follow the government's orders. That he wouldn't give a dying person CPR unless they were a hot woman. That he only dates women aged 18 to 19 years old because he can make an imprint on them. That virgins are the only acceptable women to marry. That men are pussies for having heart attacks, the thing that killed his dad. And that mass shootings and rapes are caused by men being too in touch with their emotions. Are we really sure that this isn't Rob McElhenney in a bald cap doing an epic troll? In 2017, when the Harvey Weinstein story came out and it turned out half of Hollywoodland's executive suite were passing young actresses around like currency, Tate tweeted that if you put yourself in a position to be raped, you must bear some responsibility. This comment resulted in Tate being banned from Twitter, though he remained active on other sites. Typically, when challenged on his more extreme viewpoints, say by Piers Morgan, Tate has a canned response ready to go, that he was taken out of context. He usually argues that people are referencing small sound bites of his longer form videos where context is super important. But I've watched many of his long form videos in their entirety, and I can honestly say that context does not help him. Often the context is much worse. Other times, when defending himself, he will play a game of word salad with the interviewer, sort of speaking in riddles to dance around the question.
There isn't an eminent doctor in the world who would tell you there is no such thing as clinical depression. Who would not tell you that some people is simply beyond their control.
I think Johann Hari wrote a book saying exactly that, my friend.
But he's not an eminent doctor.
No, but
he's a journalist.
I said depression wasn't real long ago and was attacked for it. Then Johann Hari wrote a book, which
What's
actually...
What's it got to do with Johann Hari?
Because he wrote a book proving me right.
This tendency to deflect with language is a common part of his spiel. For example, when asked if he is a misogynist, he often says, "No, I'm a realist." This is kind of clever, planting the idea that what he says is just the obvious truth. It reminds me of the same logic when applied to racism. No, I'm not a racist, I'm a realist, and the reality is that we crab people are just inherently better. His arguments are often easily disprovable, but he finds ways to downplay evidence by just talking until the argument or the evidence goes away. These sorts of comments that Andrew Tate was very happy to make have generated a lot of backlash and outrage over the years, and that has only helped fuel his rise.
I'm divinely protected. The men who hate me are fat. If you look at Dubai and the UAE, the leadership there is so flawless, so genuinely genius. Drooling.
Lots of people were rage watching from the beginning, the reason many podcasts sought him out. And there are example after example of lazy, gutless podcasts where the hosts don't agree with Tate clearly. They'll even laugh at him to his face. But they don't push back. They let him say his shit. They don't care what he's saying or what anyone is saying. The clicks are the point. So, with unfunny, boring, but still popular wannabes happy to go along with him, no matter what he said, Tate was able to game the social media algorithms to recommend his content more frequently, even if people didn't agree. And of course this made him more appealing as a guest, thus allowing him to cast a wider and wider net to capture more and more followers. When he was banned, he was on his way to having 4.5 million followers on Instagram, 750,000 on YouTube, and millions of views on TikTok. In particular, over time he started becoming really popular in what's known as the manosphere, a collective term for interrelated online communities including men's rights activists, pickup artists, and incels. And now I will pause the Tate biography to tell you all about the so-called incels, his target audience and target scammees. Incel is an abbreviation for involuntary celibate, and it is a self-described term for an online subculture of men who are unable to obtain a romantic or sexual partner despite wanting one. Really wanting one. If you ever visit their online forums, the main themes you see in their discussions are resentment and hatred toward women, entitlement to sex, self-loathing big time, male supremacy, and an obsession with acquiring social status in order to attract women. Being an alpha male, which is often broadly defined as being rich, being fit, and I guess being socially domineering. In some of these groups, there is a fascination with and even reverence for self-identified incels who have committed violence. For example, a 22-year-old who killed 6 people and injured 14 others in Isla Vista, California, in 2014, and who left behind a 141-page manifesto railing against women for not having sex with him. He became kind of a hero to some in the incel community, a martyr for their cause. A quote from him: "Women are like a plague. They are like animals, completely controlled by their primal, depraved emotions and impulses," says the man who went on a killing spree, not controlled by his fucking impulses at all. The term incel was actually coined by a female university student in 1997, who created a website for people of all genders to share their experiences of being lonely and sexually deprived due to social awkwardness, marginalization, or mental illness. She gave up the website in 2000, and in a 2018 article, she spoke about how the term was commandeered by the new incel movement. What's come to be known as the incel movement really got started in the early 2000s, and came to wider attention in the 2010s, when a number of mass murders were committed by self-described incels, and online communities like the r/incel subreddit came under scrutiny. Now, years later, there's some research on incels that may help shed light on the people who get involved in these communities. There was a study in 2020 which looked at whether the Big 5 personality traits could predict involvement in the incel community. The researchers found scoring low on extroversion, agreeableness, and conscientiousness, while scoring high on neuroticism was a significant predictor of someone identifying as an incel. But another study in 2022 found that misogynistic attitudes were more closely associated with inceldom, even when controlling for personality. Another study found that certain psychopathological issues were associated with self-identifying as being an incel. In particular, paranoid thinking, depression, and anxiety were found to play a pivotal role. Again, incels were more likely to have a fearful attachment style, which is characterized by a strong desire to have close personal relationships, but also an intense fear of abandonment, difficulty trusting others, and difficulty with emotional regulation. Someone with a fearful attachment style often has trouble with intimate relationships, as they tend to swing back and forth between being overly clingy sometimes and pushing people away at other times. In addition, a popular incel forum did a poll in 2019 and 2020 of about 1,200 users. While not scientific, the results do offer some insight. All of the respondents were men, except for 2 women who were excluded from the results. 82% of the sample size were between 18 and 30, and 8% were under the age of 17. Respondents were mostly Westerners, 43% from Europe and 38% from North America. 85% reported never having a sexual or romantic relationship, ever. 88% reported that they were unhappy. The survey also confirmed what I have seen in my own research on incels for what it's worth, that they have a very limited view of what is stopping them from having a romantic partner. They tend to obsess over physical appearance, especially height, muscle mass, and going bald, but also social status and a lack of self-confidence. There is an inevitable air of sadness around all of it, and you sort of get into a chicken or egg situation. Are you depressed because you're not having sex? Are you not having sex because you're so depressed? Do both things actually just exist separately? Looking over all the different studies on this topic, we can sort of paint a picture of the average incel. Not all incels will have all these traits, of course, but they are associated. The average incel is a man under the age of 30, possibly named Steve or Barry, who is insecure, depressed, anxious, paranoid, introverted, neurotic, disagreeable, argumentative, has low self-control, poor impulse control, and a low sense of self-awareness. Man, does that sound like anyone, Tater? A capricious god's hilarious gift to women. If you look at all of this from the perspective of a merely passing outsider, just, that car's on fire and that family's dead. Idiots. Anyway, in 2021, the Tate brothers decided to further monetize their newfound popularity by starting Hustler University, an online platform billed as an exclusive community where, for a membership fee of $49.99 per month, users can learn how to make money online working from home following modern wealth creation courses. Some of the things you could learn how to do include dropshipping, selling shit on Amazon, copywriting, crypto trading, and freelancing. The reality is that the program was entirely comprised of pre-recorded videos from the professors plus a Discord server. Most importantly, Hustler University began operating an affiliate marketing program in 2022. Users were encouraged to post large numbers of videos of Tate onto TikTok, the more controversial the better, and include a sign-up link for Hustler University. If someone signed up through the link, the user would receive a commission of about 50%. Literally just a pyramid scheme. But it worked. In 2022, Tate became one of the most Googled people in the world, and Hustler University had over 100,000 members, and the hashtag Andrew Tate would be viewed on TikTok over 13 billion times. But things began to turn sour for Tate in August of 2022, when he was permanently banned from Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok for violations ranging from hate speech to spreading COVID-19 misinformation. Although, interestingly, YouTube was still showing Andrew Tate ads in February of 2023. Anyway, the same month as these bans, August 2022, Stripe stopped processing payments for Hustler University. So, in October of 2022, Hustler University stopped the affiliate marketing program and began to rebrand itself as The Real World. Despite being banned, Tate didn't disappear from social media. His followers continued to upload his content under their own accounts in order to evade the ban. One analysis from the Center for Countering Digital Hate found that after being banned on TikTok, over 100 new accounts were created to share his content, boasting 5.7 million followers and over 250 million views between them. So, despite Tate raging about being cancelled, his content continued to be consumed on the biggest platforms, but via accounts that didn't directly belong to him. He also set up accounts on alternative platforms like Getter and Rumble, which presumably welcomed him with open arms. His transition to Rumble briefly made it the most downloaded app on the App Store, and he sure did enjoy bragging about how this positively impacted their share prices.
Post-ban, I moved to Rumble, which is a YouTube competitor. Stock price has gone up 36%, and I'm at 500,000 subscribers in 2 weeks.
So the news wasn't entirely bad for Tate. On November the 17th of 2022, Elon Musk reinstated Tate's Twitter account after 5 years of it being banned. Just over 1 month later, on December the 27th, things took a turn yet again, when Tate tweeted at Greta Thunberg, climate activist, that he has 33 cars, and he asked her for her email address where he could send a complete list of his collection and their enormous emissions. A few hours later, Thunberg responded in what would become the stuff of Twitter legend. A few hours after that, Tate responded with a video of himself in his home in Romania, complaining about Greta's response, where he appeared with a pizza box that he stressed was non-recyclable. I mean, it can be recyclable if you want, a handy box to store your most important documents, or a nice-smelling pillow. Then, the bombshell. On December the 29th, 2022, the Tate House in Romania was raided by DCOT, Romanian Law Enforcement Directorate for Investigating Organised Crime and Terrorism, and both Andrew and his brother Tristan were arrested, alongside 2 women living with them, on suspicion of human trafficking, rape, and organised crime. As you can imagine, Twitter, along with the rest of social media, went bananas. People began to speculate that the pizza box in Tate's video, from a Romanian chain, led to his arrest by confirming to authorities that he and his brother were currently in the country. A representative of DCOT refuted this, saying, "Funny, but no." Greta Thunberg, as hilarious as it was, did not contribute to Tate getting busted. I mean, he was in his house. Romanian police have said they were watching him for a while. But he did still get gretted, because in 2021, Romania was urged by an international group to take sex trafficking in the country more seriously. The name of the group that did that urging? The Council of Europe's Group of Experts on Action Against Trafficking in Human Beings, or, for short, Greta. Anyway, the specific accusations against the Tates are that they lured women into sex trafficking using the lover boy method, where the lover boy seduces vulnerable women, typically those facing economic and social hardship, by pretending to be their boyfriend, pretending to love them, by giving them gifts, promising them love, marriage, a family, financial security. Then, they manipulate these women into engaging in the sex industry. Often, the women will be lured into a foreign country, and upon arriving will have her passport taken. She will then be isolated and threatened with physical violence if she refuses to take part in the sex work. According to experts, this is how most sex trafficking works, not by snatching women off the street, but by manipulating a woman who is known to the trafficker over a long period of time and trapping her. In the case of Tate, he is essentially being accused of being a digital pimp, with his webcam business and OnlyFans accounts. On December the 31st, just after his arrest, people searching old archives of his personal website discovered a discontinued program he called the PhD system, which stands for Pimping Hose Degree, where he explained his process for getting women to engage in sex work, and it sounds eerily similar to the Loverboy method. In addition, after the arrest, DCOT revealed that Tate had actually been under investigation since April of 2022, when a man in the United States called the US Embassy in Romania and reported that his former girlfriend, an American woman, was being held captive in the Tate brothers' home. Police raided the compound and found 2 women in a webcam recording studio who said they were being held against their will. One of the women also claimed Tate had raped her. The 2 brothers were arrested, interrogated, and released, but this event is what triggered the DCOT investigation for the next several months. The Tates claimed at the time that their house had been swatted and that they weren't under investigation at all. Tate himself lied over and over again about having never been detained for sex crimes. When arrested for the second time, at the end of 2022, initially the Tates were arrested for a 24-hour pre-trial detention period, but the judge in the case signed off on prolonging their detention for 30 days. The Tates appealed the decision, but the judge rejected their appeal on January the 10th, 2023, on grounds that the 2 brothers are a flight risk. On January the 20th, their pre-trial detention was extended again to the end of February. The brothers appealed again and lost again. On February the 1st, the Tates added a new lawyer to their legal team, Tina Glandian, who previously represented Chris Brown and Mike Tyson, a famous woman beater and Tier 2 sex offender, respectively. And more shit has continued to come out after this. In January of 2023, Vice released a special report called The Dangerous Rise of Andrew Tate, showing reporter Matt Shear visiting the Tate compound in Romania in late 2022 during a meeting of the War Room, a special tier of Hustler University that costs $5,000 to join. During the meeting, Shear reported that Tate gathered the men at the meeting and told them they would have to fight against professional fighters. About half of the men agreed to get their asses kicked, and the other half were instructed to think about why they chose not to fight. Those who refused were then shamed by the group. After this, Shear was told he was not allowed to see the next part of the event, so he stood outside the building and filmed towards the windows, where he could see nude women having their photos taken. We've made a right nice country for ourselves, haven't we? Oh, sorry, I was getting a bit bored there. Alright, let's get back into it. In addition, the Vice report interviewed a woman who accused Tate of sexual assault in the UK way back in 2015, something largely unreported until 2023, as there was no conviction. She shared some voice messages that Tate had left her, where he talks about how much he enjoyed having sex when she didn't want it, where he admits to strangling her, and where he refers to himself as one of the most dangerous men on the planet. More recently, the BBC reported receiving leaked court documents in the case, which provide more detail about the trafficking operation itself. One of the victims told prosecutors that she was forced to work on OnlyFans, or TikTok, for 12 hours per day, and that if she didn't comply, the Tates would threaten to beat her. In addition, she was required to earn €10,000 per month and give 50% of her earnings to the Tates. If girls didn't earn enough, they would incur fines from the Tates, with one witness reportedly owing €4,000. Honestly, things do not look good for the Tates. In an article for Insider, a Romanian lawyer pointed out that the biggest legal challenge facing Andrew Tate is basically everything he's ever said. Saying that he moved to Romania because of their lenient rape laws and how easy it is to bribe police, well, I can't imagine that has endeared him to the local prosecutors or law enforcement. Saying that women bear responsibility for being raped, describing his process of manipulating women into sex work, bragging about his ability to control and manipulate women in general, saying on video that his women were not allowed to leave his house, bragging on video about sending messages to teenage girls online, pretty much everything we've talked about here, he has said multiple times, openly. Andrew Tate couldn't be clearer in who he is trying to appeal to. If you look at jointherealworld.com, there are many comparisons to video games and never really explained references to the Matrix. It's all written in very simple language that promises adherents will no longer be lonely by joining this community, all beneath glossy sci-fi looking graphics. It really looks like he is targeting young men of a certain demographic. It's also interesting to note that if you look at the FAQs on the Real World website, there's the question, does my age really matter? Followed by the answer, no, but we encourage anyone under the age of 18 to consult a parent or guardian before signing up for the Real World. Instead of getting the newest video games just to find them boring in a week, you can join our community, start your business, and shock your friends and family by becoming the kid who's leveling up in real life. On the old Hustler University site, this same question in the FAQs is answered as follows. There is no age limit to join Hustlers University. It all depends on how much effort you are willing to put in. At the very least, they aren't discouraging minor children from joining. A number of articles have come out where parents and teachers discuss, anecdotally, how they see boys as young as 11 idolizing Andrew Tate and repeating his violent and misogynistic views without really understanding what they're really saying. For all his complaining about being taken out of context in sound bites, Tate really knows how to repeat the same 3 or 4 circular arguments in a way that gets traction on the blunter side of the internet. And there's evidence that TikTok in particular is really keen on promoting Tate's content to teenage boys. You only have to be 13 to open a TikTok account. The Observer reportedly did an experiment in late 2022 where they created a TikTok account for a fictional teenage boy. At first the account was shown a mixture of content like comedy clips, dog videos, and discussions about men's mental health. Without liking anything and without actively searching for anything at all, the account began to suggest Andrew Tate videos. After clicking on 2 of the videos, TikTok began to suggest Tate's content more regularly. A week later, 8 out of the 20 of the first suggested videos were of Andrew Tate. It's not that there's a TikTok conspiracy, it's what gets clicks. Tate could never have gotten to where he has without the ear of misogyny, and his own willingness to exploit outrage and say some very nasty things. But it's really the ambivalence of those in a position to challenge him that has allowed this sad purveyor of human misery, the very worst thing you can be, a slaver, to fester. Andrew Tate believes in one thing: Andrew Tate. He doesn't give a shit about men, let alone women. He believes he has to be ruthless to get to the top, and that's all he cares about, because really, he's a sad little boy whose daddy left him and who vividly hates his own existence. If you go through his videos, not even for very long, just for a few minutes, you can totally see it. I've thought long and hard about what to say to any incels that might ever see this. I thought I might mention a post I read from a reformed incel going on about becoming a lot more romantically successful after realizing they were being creepy and expecting sex for being nice. I could mention John Cleese, a tall, privileged, charismatic, successful man, laughingly admitting on television that he didn't lose his virginity until he was 25, because really, it's not a big deal to anyone who's over 30. But here it really is. You are being scammed. If you continue to follow the ideology of Andrew Tate or his hangers-on, you will continue to be a lonely, isolated weirdo. The answer isn't easy. Never trust anyone who says it is. It's not about getting women to respect you, or getting a better body, or becoming rich. You're weird and kind of a piece of shit. And it really comes across immediately as soon as you enter the room. You need to work on yourself. It's going to take a long time. There's no easy fix. It's going to take a lot of self-reflection and a lot of honesty. That's difficult and tough. But you can do it. You can't change the world, but you can change yourself. So, you know. Or don't. Or keep giving him $40 a month to laugh at you. Alright. Night-night now. Have a nice weekend, wherever you are. I have a Patreon. Give me money on Patreon. Patreon money helps me live. Follow me on Twitter. That definitely doesn't help me live. Facebook. Ring a bell. There's a bell somewhere. Ring it. But if you don't see a video from me for a while, I'm making videos all the time. Check them out on my website, which is a part of YouTube. It's going off the rails. Check out the page of mine on the YouTube app channel website, because sometimes you don't get, even if you're subscribed and you got the bell, whatever the bell is, sometimes it doesn't go through to you. So just look me up every so often. Like, I personally don't subscribe to anyone. I use YouTube incognito mode. I just go, I want to watch, whatever. Mr. Croissant. What's he up to? I've not watched him in a while. I don't need a notification. I know he's making shit all the time. I won't watch Mr. Croissant in months, and then I'll be like, I fancy watching some Mr. Croissant. And I will do that. I don't really need anybody to tell me that. Am I patronising you? Sorry about that.